and I have a big problem with people who lack common courtesy, so that's why I'm venting right now. Sadly, it's something we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, but we were out, enjoying some good food in the hockey game, and a group of people show up about an hour. We were there for a couple hours, but about an hour into our evening, a big group of about 15 people show up, and they had a reservation, I guess, and then they showed up about over a half an hour late, so they lost their table. So they showed up to the restaurant and they said, "Oh, we had a reservation." And then the hostess was saying, "Well, sorry, we had to give your table away because it was over half an hour and no one called, so we just had to give it up," which is the way it should be. That's totally legit. So unfortunately, they ended up crowding around like a 10-person table right next to ours. So they're crowding around, and I'm sitting here, and my sister's sitting here, and then they're right here. Then they're all crowding around, and so they're bumping me, and then they're encroaching on our territory, and it was so annoying. And my sister and I were just both looking at each other, being like, "This, I know it seems like a bigger deal than it is, but it was just one of those things where it's just like, why do you have to do that?" And I think I was already a little bit crabby. I wasn't in the best mood, but I wasn't in a terrible mood. But it was just one of those things where just stuff like that just really, really gets to me. I cannot stand that. And yeah, you're a big group of people, and they were, as we were speculating, they were probably out somewhere and they lost track of time. But it's like, you know what? If you can't have the decency to at least call the restaurant, especially when you're a huge group like that, especially on a Saturday, number one, and on a hockey night, on a game night. This is hockey night in Canada. It's hard to get into popular places alone. Like, it's just, you don't want to mess around on a hockey night because it's always packed. So it's like, if you are planning an evening out with a big group of people, I'm not just talking like 5 people, but like 10 or more, you gotta plan ahead. And it's just one of those things where it just really bothered us. And so they're encroaching and they're like bumping us, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Fine, whatever." But I go to the I go to the bathroom, and I knew this was going to happen because they're right here. I go to the bathroom. I come back, and like the woman is like pretty much sitting on my stool, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, "Excuse me." I'm sitting there. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. It's just we lost our table, so we're just kind of, trying to make it fit." And I felt like saying, "Great, that's not my problem. I don't care if you think I'm being a bitch, but if you're gonna show up, if there's 15 intelligent grown-up people, and one of you can't even have the decency to call and say, 'Hey, I'm gonna be late,' that's not my problem. I don't care if you think I'm being insensitive. I don't care if you think I'm being a crabby, crusty woman. I don't care. You are ruining my evening, not the other way around. And I know it sounds very selfish and self-centered for me to accommodate myself and my sister. We're 2 people over 15 people. But these are 15 people that got too rowdy and too, like, lost track of time to even bother to call the restaurant and said, "Hey, we're running late." And the thing is, restaurants out here in particular, they'll only hold your table for 15 minutes, half an hour. Okay, when it's the high-end restaurants, they'll hold it for about 15 minutes. But if you call them and tell them you're going to be late, they'll hold it. They won't hold it forever, but they will hold it, and they appreciate your call. But it was just one of those things where it's just like, you know what? Maybe I'm being selfish, but if you don't have the decency to even pick up the phone and say, "We're running late, can you hold our table?" I'm not going to accommodate you. How about you pay attention to your reservations? See? This is my sign. I don't know why I brought this with me, but I had this sign at my table. I showed up to my reserved table a few minutes early, in fact. I did not show up late. I was there. I was accommodated. But for you to disrupt the other patients, the other patrons, just because you are too self-involved with your party to even have the courtesy to call, I don't have time for that. And that sounds really silly because I know when you're in a big group of friends, you get all rowdy, you drink, whatever, it's fine. That's totally legit. But I'm not gonna start sympathizing with you saying, "Oh, sure, I'll move. I'll give up my seat so you can encroach on, you know, our table when we actually had the decency to show up at our reserved time. We made the call, we reserved, we were there, we showed up, fine. But for you guys to show up over half an hour late and then wonder why they let your table go, and then to start crowding around a table that is too small for your party and start bothering the patrons beside you, no. I do not have time for that. And my sister and I actually came up with a term tonight. We decided to coin this term. I'm sure people have used it before, but we've called it PSI, personal space invaders. It's, yeah. Personal space, I have a big problem with people who can't respect personal space. It just drives me freaking crazy. But yeah, it was just really annoying because we were having it was a decent evening. There was a good atmosphere. People were playing pool and, it was fun. But it's just like, if you don't, I mean, it's a Saturday night and it's a game night. You should know better. You people live in the city. You know how it works, and fine. I don't care if it's someone's birthday. I'm sure, and I think it was someone's birthday. But it's like, I don't care. Shit happens, fine. But, just think next time. I'm being such a drama queen right now, but I don't care. But it was just really annoying. It was a bit of a buzzkill, but it's just like, and that woman was just like looking at me like, oh, I'm sorry. It's just sweet. You know, we lost our table, and so I'm going to sit on your chair right now. And I felt like saying, I just went to the bathroom. That does not mean you can take my chair. This is still my table. I got a sign to prove it, okay? So, yeah, that could just maybe I'm just being a little too overreacting, but little things like that, oh, God, I can't stand it. I really can't. I don't have time for that. I don't care. There's no way to justify that. Yeah, you're out, you're having fun, you're a big group of people, but I'm thinking when there's like 15 people, at least one of you has got to be smart enough to say, hey, we're running late. Maybe we should call our restaurant and be a little bit more respectful and just let them know. And the thing is I've run late to reservations many times before, sometimes if I'm taking public transportation, traffic, whatever, but I will call them and say, hey, I have a table for this many people, blah, 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 blah. We'll be about 15 minutes late. And they'll say, okay, no problem. And they actually really appreciate when you do that. Because you know what? Running a business is a pain in the butt when you have customers and patrons who are just too self-involved to even bother to say, hey, I'm running late. So, yeah. And eventually we did move because when our food arrived, it's like, we can't eat because these people keep bumping. I had this one guy who was on the corner of the table. He didn't even have a stool because I was sitting there. And he's like, his back is rubbing up against mine. I feel like saying, okay, fine. I get that there's a lot of you, but, when you make a reservation, show up next time.